So I'd just like to demonstrate this for maybe 3 to 4 minutes so you guys can get a sense of what London and I are doing here. But the first thing that we're going to be doing is getting into starting position as I just described. Now, we don't have to point at our own left eye anymore because we've been doing this a long time, but I am going to ask you guys to do it and we'll demo it now. So you're going to point to your own left eye as you train to always be looking into your partner's left eye. That's the more receptive side of the body. Now you can already see London starting to drop into practice quite effortlessly. This is the result of years of practice, just so you know. This takes time to cultivate what she's doing right now. It doesn't come immediately. But you can see how the front surface of her body is already open. Her hands aren't crossed. She's completely available. But notice how she's not frozen either. She's alive. And she's also animating presence on the omega pole. And we'll get more into alpha and omega in a little bit. But the reason why she's moving the way she is because she's dropping into omega as she drops into presence. So alpha and omega both do presence, but they look a little bit differently. So I just want you guys to notice that first. You can see my body's open. I sit in this wide position because it allows my hips to drop forward and my belly to get big without any effort at all. I can sit here for hours and be completely comfortable. London could even get on top of my lap and I can still be very comfortable in this position. And I can transition very easily from it. So if you're wondering why I sit this way instead of like a full lotus, it's because it's a dynamic posture that actually allows me to really make love to her from this position. And we do. We make love in this exact position. So once we go from here, she's already practicing quite deeply, looking into her eye, and we begin to synchronize our breath together. So London and I are going to stay connected, but I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit so you understand what's going on right now. So as I started to synchronize my breath with London, you might have noticed that both of our breath got deeper. The deepening of that breath is critical. If you're not breathing that deeply, you'll never feel the subtle energy that's actually available between your bodies. London and I can keep doing this and bring each other to a full orgasmic experience. But that takes a lot of time to train that ability to breathe that deeply with each other and be that responsive with each other. But all of that is real. It all comes online, it's there. But in order to access it, it comes from the breath. So the other thing I want you to notice is the movements London's doing, she's not thinking about any of the movements she's doing. It's not orchestrated. These aren't practiced routines you're seeing. She's letting her body authentically respond to what she's feeling. Even as I talk to you guys, you could see her kind of sink down because she's not being met in the way that she would like to be, as opposed to when I give her my full attention. pause right here. And I'm just going to bow a moment to close this. And then we're going to turn and face you guys again. And now I also want to mention something. You guys saw us just bow there to close the practice, because London and I are very intentional with when we're creating polarity and when we're not. And if those boundaries of when that begins and when that stops aren't there, our whole lives get very muddled and muddy. Because I don't know if we're in business mode or if we're in polarity mode. So I sit here right now with her, and I know she's recovering from that experience because she dropped deep into that omega pole. But in a few moments, I can count on her to be alpha right with me again and be sharp and teach and speak with you guys and interact with you guys. But when we seriously drop into the sensorial omega and become that movement, that flow, and then we pop back up into our brains where most of us live is up here, because we're all, men and women are all conscious, right? That's a different way of relating. And there is a time period it takes to transition. That energetic agility takes a moment to recover. If you've ever run suicide sprints from like one end, stopped, ran back the other, stopped, ran back the other, going from alpha to omega can be that exhausting. So just always bear in mind for yourself and your partner that making those transitions is a real thing. It's a real thing. So in a moment, you guys are going to turn and we're going to do this practice. Before we do, the last thing that I want to say is, could you guys see how London was receiving, or let's not even say receiving yet. She was receiving, but she was responsive to my breath. I knew exactly what was going on inside of her body every moment. I knew if she was kind of upset that I was giving you guys more attention I was giving her, even if I was looking at her. I could feel her body open and be receptive the moment my attention was more with her, right? So those subtle cues are so important. And because she lets me see them, I know exactly where I stand at every single moment. If she was locked out or frozen and she was feeling all of it, but instead was just like this the whole time, it would feel like game over to me. I wouldn't know what to do. I'd be breathing hard and I'd get exhausted and I'd be like, who said this is supposed to be fun? What is this? It's because there's an actual flow. There's a directive and receptive energy happening between our bodies, and that's what makes this work. So we're going to take you guys step by step in a moment. Before we do, I want to check in with London. Is there anything that you would want to say about that?
In regards to
the experience, how you do that, what that feels like.
One thing I want to speak to is, okay if I use your analogy that you said today?
Anything you want to use, Maya.
Justin describes our practice as a pool filter. When we meet every morning for our practice, it's like running the pool filter. And some days there's a lot of suntan lotion in there and leaves and this and that. And other days it's just crystal clean water. And because we practice so often, we're so current with each other. You know, it doesn't take very long to hit dramatic polarity. But we don't have that as an outcome, and that's the most important piece. Some days, if there was a major storm overnight and there's a tree in the pool, we deal with the tree. We don't have it like, oh, that tree's not there, let's both just try and get off, you know? And I think that's why the channels are so open, because we're not, ironically, we have these amazing outcomes, but we never attach to them, ever. And that's the only thing I would say is, you know, it's hard to fake for you guys like a place where I need him to reestablish trust, or I need, you know, because it is so current. It's just from like a, you know, earlier this morning. But But I just want to say, if that's present for you tonight, that's present for us too. This is not an outcome based thing. And if it becomes that, it's the ego hijacking spiritual wisdom and trying to use it as a strategy. And instead, what we're really doing here is we're interested in awakening. And awakening is nothing more than just meeting the moment. What's here? I'm willing to look, and I'm willing to relax and let this moment awaken me. And that's actually what our goal in sexual practice is to meet each other in the moment without any expectation. And then it happens to lead to fireworks most of the time.
So, however you're feeling now and whatever your experience of practice is tonight, don't judge how well tonight went by what you feel during practice, because you're doing the work. And sometimes the work can look ecstatic, and sometimes it just feels like, oh, and we have plenty of that too. Plenty. So, whatever your experience is, find equanimity with it. That is the secret and heart of this work. That's what makes this a spiritual practice. So I'm going to have you guys now turn and face each other. Again, no physical contact at this point.